ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामभित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्।
Sairam. Our Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center of Kansas is really blessed to have with us Brother Girish Jandiala on this auspicious Avatar Declaration Day. Brother Girish is blessed to be born into a Sai family. He had the opportunity to study in Swami's school under his guidance. He is influenced by Sai's teachings on values and value-based education from a very young age. Brother Girish studied a bachelor's in international business, master's in economics, and an MBA, all from the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Prashanthi Nilayam campus. Brother Girish's grandfather, Santi Sri Venkateshwara Sastri, was blessed by Bhagavan to write Tapovanam, Sri Sathya Sai Satcharitra. Brother Girish is a lean enthusiast and passionate about change management and value-based leadership as taught by Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Brother Girish and his wife, Divya Jandiala, were blessed with twins Rio Sai and Akshaya Sai in 2012. Currently, they are residing in Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, I would like to virtually hand over the mic to Brother Girish. Sairam.
Om Shri Sairam, offering my most humble and loving salutations to our dear Lord Bhagwan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. On this auspicious occasion of Avatar Declaration Day, that also coincides with Navaratri celebration. Greetings to everyone. First and foremost, I extend my sincere appreciation to the leadership of Kansas Sai Center for bringing Swami to all of us, for keeping Swami, us in tune with Sai consistently, even during these testing times. And my special thanks for allowing me to be part of your Sai Center and your celebrations today. Oftentimes, I have this reflection as a student at Bhagwan's university and also as a Swami's devotee in general, that we all as devotees look for these signs of confirmation from Swami. These small miracles, if we could call them so, to be blessed by Bhagwan wherever we are in Swami's organization. A simple example could be a flower that could fall from Swami's picture when we are singing a bhajan. So we take it as a sign of Swami's blessing to us or to what we do or how we behave, how we are conducting ourselves, or a dream for that matter, that Swami would bless us with his presence on. But Swami said in one particular interview that as devotees, that we should all not be mesmerized. Swami said this is the first stage, of course, is chamatkar, the miracle that we all are attracted to Bhagwan by. But then Swami said, as you be in the organization, the step that you should aspire to be is not these itsy-bitsy miracles, but the nityadbhutam. This is the word Swami used. So the consistent miracle, that's consistent surprise that is happening all around us, which Swami said is you. We were all, of course, waiting for Swami to explain what Swami meant when he said the biggest miracle in his organization is us as devotees. And then Swami went on to explain, and I add a little bit of my reflection as well. If you take the case of where we are today, I mean, being a weekday, being the time that we have chosen to assemble, none of it is most conducive for a meeting like this. Yet, despite having a lot of other things, we all have chosen to be here today in this satsang. And I'm almost absolutely certain that all of us in this call today have attended a satsang before, probably heard really great name speakers, or even heard Swami physically speak. So there is, heart of hearts, we know that there is nothing that groundbreaking that I'm going to tell today that you haven't listened to earlier. But there is some sense of enthusiasm. This is what Swami said, that utsaham, that sense of enthusiasm that brings us to Swami, that brings us to Sai Center every day, time after time, is one aspect of that miracle, Swami said. The second aspect is that aspiration that we all have to be something in this organization. To again, Swami used the word Udutta Bhakti, meaning the little parable that Swami, we all know, probably most of us know, is that of the squirrel in Ramayana. Knowing that it could not really help build the bridge when Rama was engineering that bridge to be constructed between Lanka and the other side, little squirrel wanted to help Rama by doing his bit. So he would get into water, wet his back, roll in the sand, and go back and dust himself. So it's not really any big effort that he could do, but it is whatever the squirrel could offer to the Lord. So whatever little we could do, we are all aspiring something to offer to Bhagwan, to offer to this organization. So the second part of that miracle, Swami said, is the aspiration that we all have in this organization that we want to do. And Swami said, he has said many times as well, and many devotees, that if you look at the number of devotees that are present today in Sai organization across the world, Swami said clearly that I have not invited any one of them. None of them have received a personal invitation from me saying, please come and celebrate my name and then I will give you blessings. Despite that, we are all attracted to Bhagavan. So that magnetism, the third aspect of that miracle that Swami talks about. So this enthusiasm that we all have, this aspiration that we have, and this magnetism that we all are attracted to is that living miracle that we all are attracted to today. And that, Swami said, is that Nityadbhutam, is the miracle that we all should aspire, we all should focus on, and not anything else. And also another thought Swami shared in the same interview was about the title. These are again Swami's words. Swami said, every degree that we want to take, that we want to get in our life has a prescribed path. If you want to get an XYZ degree, there is a path that is clearly chosen to be able to get that particular degree. If we want to study further, there is always more prescribed in addition to what you have already studied, and then you get that degree. And then Swami went on to say, there is just one degree. This was a question posed to the devotees present. There is one degree you will not be able to get whatever you do without the blessings of Swami. And then, of course, the boy started to guess what it could be. And after so many guesses, Swami said, that title, that degree is to be called Satyasai devotee by Swami. Swami said, you could call yourself Satyasai devotee, but to be endorsed by me as Satyasai devotee is the title, only title that you will be able to get only with Sai's blessings and no other way. So again, let's all aspire to be get that tag in Sai's organization with Swami's blessings and to please Swami. We'll start with one prayer and then I will share some more thoughts. Shriyuta Murti Vatsalata Chindedi Sundara Satya Kirti Apyayata Rupu Dalchina Krupavara Sagara Chakravarti Sushrema Gurchi Bodalu Vachinch Sukokila Ganamurti Shri Satya Saisha Ni Charanasara Samul Bhajinchadan Prabhu. If I have the opportunity, I will also share a little bit of story behind this poem that I had an opportunity to recite in front of Bhagwan many years ago. Continuing with what we were talking, this is probably the only avatar where Swami has given us the freedom to choose the path to reach Swami. First of all, he's come down, he's literally prescribed how we could conduct ourselves to please him, to be one with him, and then even made it as easy as you take one step towards me, I will take 100 steps towards you. Help ever, hurt never, love also. Well, the messages have been so clear that there should be absolutely no sense of confusion in terms of what we must do if we have to really reach Swami. I'm reminded of one particular episode from Bhagavatam. The avatar of the age in that epic is Lord Krishna. Sage Narada was reciting this particular poem to Yudhishthira in their conversation. Beautiful story, and many a times many great devotees have shared it in front of Bhagwan as well. The poem goes like this: Kamot Kantaka Gopikal. The avatar of the age again is Lord Bhagwan. Gopikas, the devotees of Lord Krishna, have adored Lord Krishna with a sense of lust. They all were in love to Lord Krishna. Bhayamuto Kamsudu, Kamsa, Krishna's uncle, always chanted Krishna's name in fear. Vairamuto Shishupala, Shishupala, once again we know the whole story. Shishupala always chanted Krishna's name, always thought of Krishna with enmity. Bandhavyamuto Yadavalu, the Yadavas had this relationship going on with Krishna. Premato Pandavalu, the Pandavas had it with love. Whatever mode they have chosen to reach the Sayujyam, to reach the proximity of Lord had always changed his agenda. He had worked around our agendas, our modes that we have chosen, and have all been blessed by Bhagwan. And Bhagwan says, as Swami quotes this poem from Bhagavatam, that I have given that free pass to all of you as well. That you choose the path that you want to take, that it is convenient for you to be able to reach me. So just when I heard this particular instruction from Swami, I felt, okay, all right, now we choose a path. I decide how I want to reach Swami. Is it by reading a book? Is it by Namasmarana? One of the Navavidha Bhakti Marga, or any other that I have chosen to reach Swami with, is that enough? Just when I thought probably I understood the code, Swami gave me this opportunity to have an experience of sorts. I will narrate that, and then we dwell a little more in deep as to what Swami exactly was saying and what is in it for us today to talk about. Many years ago, I would put the time frame approximately in the early 2000s. Swami was, of course, giving darshan regularly in Prashantinilayam, unlike the much later part of Sai that we know. Those who are every day, you literally know that Swami is coming in the evening, Swami is coming in the morning, and what time approximately, and so on. So one of those days, I will just give a little bit of structure in Prashantinilayam for those of us who are new. So in Prashantinilayam, Swami lives in Ejur Mandir, as it is called. That's the Swami's residence, and just immediately next to it is the Sai Kulwant Hall. Sai Kulwant Hall is where Swami gives his darshan every day, morning and evening. And as the sequence of events would be, Swami comes out of the residence, And then the first to see Swami would be the ladies as they are seated, and following ladies are the students, and then the gents. And then if Swami makes one full circle, he comes back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, the main where Swami's Sannidhi is there today in Prashantanilayam. So you can imagine a little bit of the map in your head now when I talk about it. So every evening, Swami comes around between 3 to 4 p.m. to the mandir for darshan. So again, the sequence, as I narrated, would be the one that Swami would usually do. On this particular day, it's a bit different because Swami has chosen to come at 1:30 that afternoon. So that's quite unusual of Swami to come that early, because usually there is this time that Swami comes out and not before. It may be slightly later if he had an engagement or two, but very unlikely that Swami would come before. But today Swami is out at 1:30, which means the entire Kulwant hall is empty, and Swami decided to come down. So people were not very sure if Swami came down for something else. Would he go back and come again at 3 or 4? Or is this Swami's darshan visit that Swami actually come down for? So the devotees are still waiting outside, queuing up to be allowed in to come to the Kulwant hall. And then you can imagine the confusion. Swami is walking into the mandir. The devotees are being let in as fast as they could be, just to make sure there are devotees sitting when Swami comes in. And as fast as the Sevadal could, everything was put in place and Swami did his walk. But of course, the students were not present, because we have the privilege to come just a few minutes before Swami would arrive. So we would come between 3 to 3:30, the students, and Swami comes a few minutes after we arrive. But today, Swami was already here by 1:30, so we were still in the college at that time. So a message was sent that Swami had already come. So the college, we were let off early. So we all rushed to the hostel, changed, and headed to the mandir. And we were, of course, getting messages that Swami has already come and he is waiting for the students. So now, not only Swami has already come, there is also this sense of excitement now that Swami is waiting. Usually it's other way around, the students are waiting, but today Swami seems to be waiting for the students. And as we entered, the first few students rolled in. Swami was standing on the upper portico with his hands folded in the back, literally waiting for people to come in. And there was so much that we were thinking that Swami would possibly do. When was the last time Swami waited like this? And when he waited, what did Swami do? There was one student that said Swami would possibly give clothes today because Swami's birthday is nearing and Swami usually distributes white clothes to all of us. There was another student said he saw a truck come in with the name brand of watches. So possibly Swami ordered some watches for students. So we were all guessing something is going to come our way today. So there's a lot of excitement to see Swami, more than to see Swami, to receive something from Swami that day. And Swami, as always, inimitable are his ways. He was waiting, and as students were settling down, Swami would walk close to the students. And to the first few students that were sitting, Swami would ask, will you do a play? So in Telugu, Swami asked, Natakam chestara? So will you do a play for me? Of course, we want to do a play for Swami. It's a great opportunity to be able to do a play in front of Swami. But again, for those of us who know how Parthi calendar works, there is in the whole year of calendar year in Prashantanilayam, one play that is put in front of Bhagavan. That's it, one. And that happens on 22nd November every year. And that also happens to be the convocation day of the university. And there is a chief guest usually. And in front of the chief guest and Swami would then sit in the Purnachandra auditorium. Again, I'm throwing out some names there. Purnachandra auditorium is an auditorium. It's literally meant for a program of that nature, like a play. So there is a stage, there are these fancy curtains, there is a small D box where the VIPs could sit and watch, and then there is so much room for the devotees to sit and see the stage. Very suitable for a stage sort of program. But Kulwant Hall, again, is not meant for a play. Why I'm saying that, we will see shortly now. So Swami asked for a play, and there is only one play that usually happens. And that particular play, Swami directs himself all through. Swami writes the play, Swami writes the script, every detail of it, and Swami handpicks the students, the actors that would go into his play. So it's that big a deal to even be part of a play in front of Swami. And that's the only play we all know. And so today Swami asks, would you put a play? And people were taken aback. But of course, when Swami asks, you don't want to say anything but yes. So the students in front who heard him, whether they were actors or not, whether they knew what to do or not, they immediately, on behalf of the student community, they said, Swami, yes, for sure. Okay, అయితే నేను 15 నిమిషాల్లో వచ్చి చూస్తాను. That first one was a shock in itself that Swami would make the request. The second one was even bigger. Swami said, in 15 minutes, I would come back and watch the play. And as Swami said that, he went into the interview room. Again, that's the room where Swami would spend some time in the Kulwant Hall when he wants to talk to devotees or take any family in for some personal interaction, while Swami was in Kulwant Hall. So Swami went in, and the message spread now to the students who are still settling that Swami is expecting a play, and likely in 15 minutes. No one had a clue what to do. But just one thing we all knew, that was Swami was going to come in 15 minutes. There was a section of students that were saying, well, Swami asked, probably you guys did not listen properly as to when Swami would want to watch exactly. Even if Swami said 15 minutes, it's absolutely impossible. So we would tell Swami when Swami comes back that it's not reasonable. And so we would not do anything. So there was one section of students that was saying, on another part, on some students were saying, no, Swami did ask, so let's do whatever. Swami now knows that it's not up to us that we can put a best program in front of Swami, but probably Swami will give us the courage, will excuse us if we have to even make some mistakes, but we will still go ahead and do this play. With the two schools, we were talking to each other while Swami was still inside. And there was one particular student that had an idea as to what possibly we could do, not a full-fledged play, but a theme that we could run in front of Swami through some back and forth dialogue and come to a model that would suit the occasion in Prashantinalayam and suit Swami's presence. So a thought was being thought upon, and then a few students were chosen. If we have to put, this is what we will put. And then even as the instructions were being given, we were not absolutely, everybody was not clear, but we thought probably we should do something, play by the ear a bit and use our experience and try and do something decent in front of Swami. So Swami did come, at least thankfully, not in 15 minutes, but another 20, 25 minutes that Swami did come out. And he came straight back to the group that he was talking to earlier and asked, ready, are you guys ready? Of course, yes, Swami, we are ready. And then Swami was asking questions to this group of students. As to the first question Swami asked was, what's the name of the play? As everything was being decided, the name was decided too. And Swami asked, what's the theme? Who is acting? And he asked in particular if a student was acting and what class is he, and so on and so forth, what grade is he, and so on and so forth. And in my mind, sitting somewhere at a distance, I thought that possibly Swami would ask some question at this point that not everybody would have the answer to. And if in case Swami asks one such question, I wanted to be the only one who has the answer to that question. So I kept thinking in my head, what else could Swami ask? And if Swami asks, what else would be something that not anyone else will know? So this came to my head that because of the nature of how this whole play was stitched and how fast people were recruited into the play, one question nobody would have a clarity on, even if they knew, was how many students were in the play, because of how we quickly put this together. And as I finished that thought and started to count, and I had a mental count looking at students that were around, I came to a particular number. And just as I finished counting and decided on the number and waiting for Swami to ask, Swami would turn towards my side and ask, how many students are there? Now, this is my moment, because I did prepare, and exactly just when I finished, Swami would ask. But I did not want to immediately give the answer, because I wanted first everyone around me to fail, and then comes me with the answer. So just as these thoughts were floating in my head, nobody, of course, gave an answer, because nobody wants to give Swami a wrong answer, and nobody did make this count until then. And then comes my turn. I get up a little bit and tell Swami, 13, 13 mandi Swami. And Swami looked straight into my eyes. He said, bad boy, bad number. Let's not get into why Swami said that particular number is anything that's not so good. But the detail of the story we will go into little by little. But as Swami said this, his mood seemed to change. His excitement seemed to slightly come down. Until then, the Swami that wanted to watch the play, that's been pushing us to have this play that really Swami wanted to, and all the effort that has been put suddenly seemed to have come to a stall. And Swami said these two words, bad boy, bad number, and started to slowly do something else than engage with the students. And he walked back into the interview room. And when he walked back into the interview room, came the real shock, the confusion as to what just happened here. Swami wanted a play. Swami came back for the play. And just when we were about to start the whole thing, something happened here that some boy seemed to have said something that really upset Bhagwan. And that boy here is me. So I was personally very sad that this happened. And of course, every other student was unhappy with me that I unnecessarily spoke or did not think through what I said, but I just said this little answer that Swami asked. So I was reflecting upon myself that maybe something is wrong here. Something was not done the way it should be done with Bhagwan. There is a lesson that Swami is trying to teach. But how much ever we think of that question, how many students are acting, and then we count again and again and again, the number comes back to exactly what we counted earlier. Now, there were many other students helping me count and counting for themselves, and anyone could not make another number except that. Now, even bigger confusion as to what is wrong now. So the answer in itself probably is not wrong. So it's probably the boy who spoke is not the right person to even talk to Bhagwan, or not the one who should be speaking to Bhagwan. So something of that sort, the little young, all of us were feeling very sad. So one prayer I had in my head to Swami then was, Swami, just come back and just watch this play, and that's all I ask for you in my life, because I will remain forever a villain if you don't watch this play, because so many students are ready to put this play in front of you. And then apparently, as it looks like right now, I'm the only reason why this play is not happening. So my prayer, I'm intensely praying, Swami, please come back, scold me again, but just please watch this play once, and then we are even. So Swami comes back graciously after a few minutes, maybe another 10 minutes now. And this time, everybody is very nervous as to what Swami would ask and what is the ideal answer to give. So we're all preparing, with few answers were rehearsed as to what Swami possibly could ask and what could we possibly tell. And Swami comes back and asks this question again. How many students are there in the play? Now we all have counted in the last few minutes and the number remains the same. And we could not give Swami another number than the real number. So we didn't know what to do until a group of students got up and said, Swami, 14. Immediately Swami said, Padamudu annaru? He said, you said 13 sometime back. And then one boy said, Swami, 13 of us plus 1. That is you, Swami. So total of 14. And as soon as that was said, all of the nervousness, all of the tension that was built up in the earlier few minutes just eased as Swami broke into a little smile. And then he sat on his chair and he said, start the play. Swami seemed very happy with how the play went. And we were happy the way we pulled it off with such quick notice. And Swami blessed a few students different ways. And Swami did give us photographs after the play, as you would imagine. And I had this desire in this whole process when Swami was interacting with the students after the play to be able to apologize to Swami, or to somehow get a closure in my head to what has happened earlier to Swami. So some interaction of some form, even if not apologize in total. I was not clear what I want, but Swami, please say something so I will go back in a good mood, was what I was thinking in my head. And came my turn for the pictures, and just when we spent some time and talked to Swami, I was about to say something to Swami to that effect as a sorry. And Swami immediately said, +1. He said, never forget +1. And some more interaction happened. But again, point to the story, the moral of the story here, why we need to talk about this particular story and why I mentioned this today, is with the idea that if there is one thing we want to take away from today's satsang, that could be this, that always in every plan of ours, could we ask ourselves this question, that are we taking Swami along with us? Is he that +1 that we carry along with us everywhere we go? Is he coming with us to the grocery shopping? Is he coming with us to work? Is he coming with us to school? Is he one of our family member? Are we considering Swami? Are we keeping Swami in every plan of ours? I think that's a reflection question that we could all ask Swami. And that's one thing I very strongly take away from my entire student life with Swami and all the learnings that Swami has bestowed upon. So with this learning that I've had, and you often, when we are with Swami, the proximity that we have, the illusion covers you so well that we tend to think we have understood it all the time, right? Especially people like me. So just when I got this lesson, I began to think, okay, now Swami has given a direct instruction as to what I must be doing, or anyone must be doing. So if possibly, if we do just that, that is good enough for me to have this Bhagwan's blessings to start. So as this whole story that I'm trying to build, to start with, that it's important we choose a path to Swami, whichever is comfortable for us. And 2, in that path, we keep Swami as our focus. Swami as a +1, Swami along with us, that we make sure we carry him in our every act of life. And just when I thought this is how I lead my life, this is the code that Swami gave me, this happened. This is again another beautiful experience that I happen to experience with Bhagwan, I happen to receive. And hopefully some message for all of us in this, through this experience as such. So again, the story goes back to Prashantinilayam. Now, I'm just trying to connect these two. When the first episode happened, the play I was mentioning to you, that was probably the first of its kind when we do a play in Kulwant Hall. Again, like I said, plays are meant for the Purnachandra auditorium, where it is meant for a play, the whole system around it. But Kulwant Hall really do not have the acoustics or the wherewithal to host a play as such. But that was the occasion Swami started the trend of hosting plays in Prashantinilayam. If you go to Prashantinilayam anytime now, where Swami's Sannidhi is there, we all get an opportunity to go close and see. Right there where you would be asked to stand and see Swami now is the place where these plays used to happen. So while we are facing Swami and maybe 100 more devotees on the upper portico, to the thousands of people that are behind us, it's really not in any way convenient for even to observe or watch or understand what is going on because of the pillars in the hall, because of how you're seated, where you're seated, and we don't even turn to the devotees and speak because Swami is here. So it's not a comfortable setting at all in terms of how to run a play in Kulwant Hall. But that being said, on that particular day with that play, Swami did start off a new tradition of hosting plays in Kulwant Hall. And now, fast forward at least a couple of years from that point, where we have done so many plays, so many programs in Kulwant Hall in that setting, informal setting when Swami would sit and watch. And on this particular time, this particular play that I'm talking about, luckily for us, Swami did give 2-day notice. Swami asked the warden then, Swami said, Pauranikam emanna cheste baaguntundi pillalu, he said. Something mythological, if the students can enact, that would be good, Swami said. So, all right, Swami has seen quite a lot of such plays. And so there was a desire that we should show something unique to Swami. This is Swami literally asking that this be presented to Swami, and then we should really do something that will make Swami happy, that will please Swami. So there was this desire that a few students had to write a script of that nature. And possibly the script that was written on this particular occasion is one of the most dynamic script that was possibly ever written in front of Bhagavan. I will tell you why I call that such a dynamic script. Possibly anyone in our senses that we know Swami of would ever want to write a play like that and enact a play like that in front of Bhagavan ever, because of the nature of the play, of the story as such. So this story was written, I'll not keep it suspense, this story was even enacted in front of Bhagavan. But the story goes like this, for those of you who understand the Hindu scriptures a bit. So the story is set in heaven, and where Lord Brahma and Mother Saraswati were having a morning dialogue. So the scene starts with that, literally. So the huge costumes you can imagine, because we have now 2-day notice, so there's a lot of time for us to prepare. So there were these huge costumed characters sitting right in front of Swami, having a dialogue. And the dialogue goes like this, that Lord Brahma wakes up from his meditation, opens his eyes, and tells Mother Saraswati that he is unhappy that his lotus is missing. And Mother Saraswati reacts to Lord Brahma saying, me too, I am also upset that my lotus has been missing for a few days now. So it's Lord Brahma and Saraswati talking about their lotus is missing. Already we are on a slippery slope right now here in front of Swami, with such characters come to life and talk something of this nature. As that's happening, they are angry, they're upset, and they summon Lord Indra, the in charge of heaven. And then Lord Indra comes, listens to them, but then has his own worry to share with Lord Brahma. He says, I understand that you are upset, but I have something even more to worry about, that my entire army of clouds is missing. So now you can imagine Swami is fully wide open and watching what's going on here. So are many VIPs sitting on the upper portico. What are the students really doing in front of Swami? And as this is going on, Lord Yama is passing by and he sees them talking, and he comes in and he asks what happened. And they tell Lord Yama what happened, and Yama says that this can only be solved by my Guru, my God, Lord Shiva. And then he goes to Kailasa to bring Lord Shiva, or to tell Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati, and there he finds them missing. So that this is some kind of suspense thriller now, that where one after one item or people in the heavens are missing or stolen. And then angrily they summon the 5 elements, the Panchabhutas. Only 4 of them turn up. And then Lord Brahma asks, where is the 5th one? And they say, it's been a few days since our friend Agni, fire, has been missing for some time. And it goes on and on and on. Lord Hanuman is missing, Lord Ganesha is missing, and so on and so forth. And as this story, you could, while you're imagining how such a story was even allowed to present in front of Swami, usually it is not. Usually you have many stages that you go through before any play is put in front of Swami. The student in charge takes a look at it, has so many corrections to add, so many edits, then the teachers, then the warden, probably some more people in the mandir. This many gates you pass, and only then would you be even allowed to put a play in front of Swami. But because of the frequency of plays that Swami is watching those days and different sorts of items, there has been some leeway that we could somehow push this through without getting so many permissions and going to so many gates, while few elders have seen it though. So all of this suspense, all of these events that have to be now unfolded. So the idea then one of them would give was to, I think Sage Narada would come in and give, is that the only person who could solve this is Lord Vishnu. So they would all pray to Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu comes and then has this answer to all of them. And that is supposedly supposed to ease the tensions and then have this fantastic answer. And I had the good fortune to be chosen as Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu, the role of Lord Vishnu is to come, simply talk to everyone, that's a few minutes, and then explain to all of them that nothing that they're thinking has happened. There is no thief in heaven, no one is missing. I, Sri Mahavishnu, have chosen to go to earth and to be born as Sri Satya Sai Baba. So I have taken the lotuses of Brahma and Saraswati to be my eyes. I've taken the Meru Parvatam, Mother Saraswati would have, the golden mountain, to have it as my birthmark on my cheek. I've taken the 5th element, fire, to be my robe. And I have taken Lord Ganesha to be in Prashantinalayam, and Lord Hanuman to be on the Hillview Stadium, and so on and so forth. So now this answer we expected Swami to really cheer up and be happy about, and Swami laugh maybe as a joke, and then eases all the tensions that we have so far reached. So it's good 25-30-minute drama. And I had this opportunity to be Mahavishnu. So I could not, again, the setup isn't ideal for a play, especially with costumes, but we were doing it anyway for some time now. And so there was an idea, somebody said, if you get up with all this throne and the setup from students, it would spoil the suspense, because everybody would know that Vishnu is going to come. So you should hide behind the Ganesha statue. So once again, where Swami's Sannidhi is there, behind that, there is a bronze Ganesha statue. And behind that, I would be hiding. So Swami is in front watching this play, and I am far behind. So just when it was my turn, I need to make this big turn around the students and come from the front to be part of the play. That was a plan, and it is my turn now. And I was walking to make that big turn, but what we did not practice, what we did not plan, was all the sound that my costume was making as I was walking. So that was attracting everyone's attention. So including Swami heard that sound and turned to see what was going on. And then we knew we need to do something else. And then I had to rush through the VIPs. And if you see Prashantilayam, there is this, the metal little golden fence that is put in front of Swami, a small barricade. So where there is just one opening to get down from the upper portico and to go to the lower portico. And that is Swami sitting right in that gap. So you have to literally cross over Swami to go through that gap. But then now I have chosen to come that way to avoid the big turn and all the attention. Now I'm stuck just next to Swami to be able to go down. I have this picture, if I could share. Let me see how I do it. You seeing my screen now or not yet? If one of you could confirm. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
This is a picture.
But we are not seeing the picture. I think you have to share your picture.
It says I am screen sharing. Is no one looking at the picture?
Saidam,
Do you have
the photo? Maybe you can try resharing your screen.
Okay, I'll do stop share and then share again. Now?
Yes,
Yep.
now we can see.
Okay, nice. So how do I minimize this? Okay, so this is the picture. So you see the little gap that is there to get down from the upper portico to the lower portico where the play is happening. While I was supposed to make this huge turn and come from that side, I did not have the opportunity. So I cut through right across and now I'm stuck next to Swami to get down. And I, of course, did not have the courage to see Swami and walk that take that little walk. So I was looking at my friends in the play and walked down. And just when that was happening, I came down to be part of the play, and I started my bit of narration that is simply explaining every bit of that which is missing in heavens to one by one on Swami's body. So I prepared very well. This is a big opportunity. I got to play this big role in front of Swami. So I took my time to practice. I looked at every picture in Swami's rehearsal. Somebody said, if you literally don't need to practice your dialogues, remember them. But then if you just see Swami and go one by one in the sequence you see, and then you should be able to cover everything. So I followed that and every picture I see Swami, then I would start saying my dialogue starting from the hair. And as I was doing every angle I planned for, if Swami was looking at me from the right, so I have a picture of that kind, and I have from the left, from right, from beginning. So wherever I stand, based on where I could on that particular day. So all of this planning happened, and I felt very prepared and with some experience from a few other plays. So I felt really empowered. All things that I need for running a role like this, I have. And I started to say my dialogue. I started with the hair. And just when I came to Swami's eyes, this was unlike any other picture that I saw so far. These were moving. And this Swami was looking straight into my eyes, waiting for me to say the next dialogue. And I, looking at Swami's reaction, could not utter a word. I am able to remember what I should say. I am able to process in my head what I should be saying, but I am unable to open my mouth literally. And friends behind me who were in the play, everything is done now. It's just me and my narration, and we would close the play. So all of them have taken their positions, and one of them was prompting me. I could hear. I am able to hear him. I am able to process that dialogue in my head, but I am just unable to say it. Swami looking straight at you. And sensing my discomfort, Swami for a quick second looked away, talked to someone next to Swami, and then I took that opportunity and narrated the rest of the play, the rest of my dialogues quickly, one after another. And we were done, received quite many good reviews. Swami seemed very happy. He materialized a few things for a few students. And Swami took pictures with the students as well, most memorable, that you could literally stand next to Swami and take a picture one by one, a few roles that we were all in. And I wanted to take that opportunity to tell Swami, Swami, I was a little nervous looking at you, and you were looking straight into my eyes. I could not be fluent, but other than that, I practiced very well. So I'm forming some sentences in my head to wait for my opportunity to tell this to Swami. And just when I went to Swami, Swami said something to me. Park this story right here in the back of your head, and I just want to take you through something that happened before the play, and then we'll come back to this piece. So while I was given the opportunity to play this role, like anyone would do, to make the best use of this opportunity, I wanted to practice watching someone who has done this role before, to be able to best impersonate the hand gestures and how we walk, how we talk, how we move our head, and so on, because I would have this huge crown and a flute to hold. So I wanted to watch someone, and there is really no one that I could talk to who has played that role before, or anyone in that hostel I had access to. So I got this strange idea then, I don't know still today why or how, to watch a movie actor possibly that who has done this role. And the person that came to my head was N.T. Ramarao. For many of you who hail from Andhra Pradesh in India would know this person. He's an accomplished actor, had done many roles, the nature of Lord Krishna and similar. So for some reason, that's the thought that came to my head. And then I had this desire to look at some video of his, a small clip, so I can try and follow how he has done what he has done. So being in Prashantinilayam, being in the hostel, it's not that easy to get hold of any of these, but I could ask a few teachers who were in charge of the audio video room. And I had an opportunity to see a little bit of snippet. I took detailed notes, I practiced. I only walked like that the next one day and moved like that, talked like that. I really put myself in the zone to completely be that role. So it was literally N.T. Ramarao where I was living for the next few days. And now come back to the story. I have this opportunity to go close to Swami and talk to Swami and say something to Swami. Just when I went to Swami, Swami looked at me and said, "Cinema వాళ్ళని చూస్తే cinema వాళ్ళే గుర్తొస్తారు, Swamini చూస్తే Swami గుర్తొస్తారు." He said, if you watch the movie actors, you will remember just the actors. But if you have watched Swami, you would have remembered Swami. And that took me some time, because I completely forgot about what I did to practice, how I've been preparing myself, because I am right here, right now. And Swami reminded me of, and even after he said it, I could not assimilate and respond, because I'm taking time to process it and say, what exactly did Swami say? Oh my God, this is what Swami said. So, and then I said, Swami, Kshaminchali, I'm sorry. And then, but much before, even before that, I had to go, and then I was thinking of this lesson. But again, I had some opportunity at a little later time to talk to Swami more in detail, and Swami explained. But the point again is, if you go back to what we were talking about, choosing a path for ourselves as a step one, taking Swami with us everywhere we go. So this whole episode was being done for Swami. This whole idea was to be with Swami, to be impressed Swami. But then Swami had an extra lesson to put in our daily practice, that it's not enough if you just have Swami along with you as you call now, but it's also important that Swami is a single pointed focus for all of us. Like Swami says, your heart is like a single seat sofa, literally Swami's words. He said there is no room for two people. So the focus must always be Swami and Swami alone. That Swami gave an opportunity to teach a lesson that the focus must be Swami all the time.
Sairam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. See, can you please share some experiences about your grandfather writing about Tapovanam, Sai Satcharitra, at least for a few minutes?
Sure can. So Tapovanam, as many of you probably know, is the daily recitation book that my grandfather had the opportunity to write. I'll narrate one experience that I personally witnessed, that Swami blessing related to this particular book. To start with, of course, my grandfather had written many books in his life with Swami. I think one of the last books that he has written, I guess he's written one or two more after Tapovanam, but one of the last books that he has written was Tapovanam, personally guided by Swami every step of the way. Even the title, my grandfather took a proposal to Swami, and then Swami immediately said, perfect title for this book, please continue calling it that, and that's how the name came about as well. So on this particular day, this morning, this was a morning session, Swami came, finished his darshan rounds, and Swami went into the interview room, and we took that opportunity as devotees to go and do, maybe have a breakfast or do something else and come back for bhajans before Swami comes out again. So my grandfather and I, he was living in East Prashanti, so I was there as well. We were having our breakfast that morning, and the Sevadal runs to the residence and then asks my grandfather to come because Swami is calling. Swami came out and is asking for him. So my grandfather has this huge hardbound book that he was writing with pen and paper. That's how he's written all his books. There is always a hard copy. He never used a computer. So he was carrying that book where he was correcting, he was writing and rewriting. So it's really like a draft, but then that was how he was operating, and he was showing to Swami as well. And then that was a huge book that he couldn't carry and walk as fast as he could. So I helped him carry that book, and we went to Swami. I stayed a few steps behind while Swami was interacting with my grandfather about the book. And Swami literally said, I do not remember which episode, but he pointed to a particular episode on one of the days, and he said, this should be in another day. Swami literally pulled that one out and put it in another day in the whole book as it is. So many episodes that were narrated by Swami that were brought to my grandfather's attention by Swami to put in the book and change the sequence of how they were written, from which day to which day, which should come first, which should come next, and so on. He even guided who should write the foreword and so on and so forth, and how the book should be published. There were a few pictures of the title page that was shown to Swami, and Swami approved the one that had. And on that particular day, Swami even signed the book in Telugu, and that is what is printed onto every Tapovanam that you see. So, of course, he wrote it, but it was completely guided by Swami and Swami's will that the book was written. So it's a very fortunate thing, I personally believe, for all of us to recite, all of us to read. That's been guided by him, that's been directed by Swami, literally for us to read and have as our daily recitation book. Is that good, Lakshmi?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. Thank you so much.
I know it's 9 o'clock, so I would just stop with this small prayer, and then we could continue with the agenda. Swami, in his physical form, the time he has spent on earth, in the plane that we know, in the form that we know, has done a lot of miracles, has blessed many devotees, has interacted with many devotees, has cured many diseases, and so on and so forth. But again, Swami tells us again and again that I have come for a bigger purpose. He said, Avatarinchuta, this is Swami's poem again, Avatarinchuta anutulo ardhamemi, జనులపై ప్రీతి వాత్సల్య పరతతోడ వారి స్థాయికి వచ్చి దిగి వచ్చి భువికి జీవ ప్రజ్ఞతో పాటు దైవ ప్రజ్ఞ. He comes down to our level many times to make us feel akin to him and make us feel one with him, but he raises himself to that superhuman level, so we aspire to be him. So while of course he can take care of our office work, he can solve our finances, he can cure our backache and so on, but we should evolve to a level where we ask Swami what Swami has come to give us, or pray to Swami that his will prevail. We'll stop with that prayer, that we all ask Swami for what Swami wants to give us and what Swami has come to give all of us. With that, I thank you all once again for giving me this opportunity to join your organization, to your center's activity today on this auspicious occasion of Avatar Day. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, Brother Girish. On behalf of the Sri Satyasai Baba Center of Kansas, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for sharing such divine glimpses of divinity on the auspicious occasion of Avatar Declaration Day. Now we will be doing Mahamrityunjaya Mantram 3 times, followed by Harati and Vibhuti prayer.
Sairam, now we are going to chant Mahamrityunjaya Mantram. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityurmukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityurmukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityurmukshiyamamritat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we are going to do Harati. Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Satya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Pati Maheshwara. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare Sashivadana Shrikara Sarva Pranapate Swami Sarva Pranapate Ashrita Kalpalatika Ashrita Kalpalatika Apadbhandava. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Daivamu Mariyantayumire Swami Mariyantayumire Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nagendra Sayana. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare Omkara Rupa Vojasvi Sai Mahadeva Satya Sai Mahadeva మంగళహారతి అందుకో మంగళహారతులందుకో మందర గిరిధారి ఓం జయ జగదీశ హరే నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం ఓం జై సద్గురుదేవా సాయి నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం ఓం జై సద్గురుదేవా సాయి నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం నారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం సత్యనారాయణ నారాయణ ఓం ఓం జై సద్గురుదేవా ఓం శాంతి 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 స్వస్తి ప్రజాభ్యాం పరిపాలయంతాం న్యాయేన మార్గేణ మహీమహీషాన్ గోబ్రాహ్మణేభ్యశ్చ శుభమస్తు నిత్యం సమస్తలోకాః సుఖినో భవంతు సమస్తలోకాః సుఖినో భవంతు సమస్తలోకాః సుఖినో భవంతు ఓం శాంతి శాంతి శాంతి
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं idamastrayami. Sacred, holy, and supreme is Baba's Vibhutim, pouring forth in brilliant streams, display of Vibhutim. So auspicious is its might, it grants liberation. Baba's Vibhutim, its power protects us. Paramam pavitram Baba Vibhutim, Paramam vichitram Leela Vibhutim, Paramartha Ishtardha Moksha Pradhanam Baba Vibhutim idamastrayami. Sai Baba Vibhutim idamastrayami. Om 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 Sai Ram.